So this is my setup. This would normally, it's my first hot bank. It would go down here and it would be at button size 120, which for me is the smallest I can make these banks and still easily read what's written on there and be comfortable with the way it looks. It's set up so that I can manually trigger any of them by hitting the 1 through 0 keys, the dash key, and the equal key. With lag, you will find that the quickest way to do something often is to trigger it with a bound key. So let's look at the first one. This is my attack key. First thing it does is it targets X target 1. And when you're in crowd control, you don't want to target the wrong mob. And a lot of times somebody will be coming in, say the puller is coming in with 3 mobs at once because it knows you're going to mez the ads because you're an enchanter. But maybe they've targeted the second mob. So how do you make sure that X target 1 is going to be the correct mob? Well, I come over here and I set my X target 1 as the group assists target. Or you could do it as whatever, the tank's target, raid assist target, or sometimes just have it auto. I mean, whatever's appropriate. This is not a bot setup. You're going to be making decisions as you go through it. But I generally have this as the group assist target. If I'm soloing, I can change this, or I can go, if I've got my mercenary out, I can just set myself. Well, let's see. Well, if I had my mercenary out, I could set myself as the group assist. So whatever works. Or I could change this to auto when you're soloing. The second thing it does is it sends the pet in to attack whatever is X target 1. This turns my personal attack on. You may or may not want this line in. The reason you would want it in is if you put Knight's Perpetual Terror on yourself, and definitely put it on your pet too, and put it on every melee in your group. The procs from Knight's Perpetual Terror combined with the procs from my Arcane Staff, Surge of Ice, is going to give me damage that is close to what my pet is putting out. And that could be, let's call it 25,000 DPS. So if I'm in a situation where I can melee, this is an extra free 25,000 DPS. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? Well, you're an enchanter, you're in charge of crowd control, and a lot of times it's more effective for you to back away from the immediate combat so you can see what's going on and mez and control and do things. So sometimes I have it on, sometimes I have it off. It's your call. The next one is cast spell 12. Spell 12 for me is going to be my tash. I tash every mob. One, it does help with resists, and there are some mobs where you need to debuff them in order to stick a slow or whatever it is you're trying to do. But it also adds 3005 damage to the damage you take from chromatic-based spells. Well, Mind Coil is chromatic-based. Mind Drift is chromatic-based. Mind Slash, chromatic. Ideological Appropriation, chromatic. Pulmonary Grip, chromatic. You want to tash every mob. So this is my attack key. The next one is I have Mez All. Again, X target 1. You want to make sure you're targeting the right mob. The reason I'm targeting X target 1, even though I'm mezzing, is because that's generally going to be the center of the battle. And my AE mezzes have a 30-foot range. So you're not going to be mezzing or aggroing mobs that weren't within 30 feet. So generally this is going to be where you want to mez the mobs. I have 2 AE mezzes memorized because of the way I just like to have an AE Mez available all the time. This first one casts in 0.35 seconds with my gear. Yeah, so 0.35 seconds. It's fast. It also has a -100 resist, so it sticks. The problem with it is once you cast it, you can't cast it again for a minute and a half. And so if a lot of enchanters won't memorize this one because that minute and a half lockout is too long to worry about. And they go with neutralizing wave. The difference is you don't have the -100, you only have -15. And it's a 2-second cast as opposed to a 0.35 cast. So I, belt and suspenders man that I am, I have them both memorized. And so it'll cast 7 if that's up and available. If it's going through the lockout period, then neutralizing wave will cast. That takes 2 seconds. That will mez everybody. There is another AE option. It's Beam of Slumber. Well, and there's also other AE options that you could memorize. You can explore those, decide if they're the right choice for you. But in this case, Beam of Slumber will mesmerize up to 8 level 118 or lower creatures. The problem is it's a 30-foot wide by 200-foot long area in front of you. If you have like 4 mobs in front of you and then there's 4 mobs somewhere off in the distance, you're going to aggro those mobs and all of the mobs around them. So this is, go to someplace like the Tower of Rot or Howling Stones and play around with the Beam of Slumber before where you can safely, hit stasis if necessary. So you can get a sense of, is this the right one to use for you? There are places where it's very nice to use, especially outdoors, but I don't immediately default to Beam of Slumber in dungeons or areas where I might end up aggroing a lot of additional mobs. But that is my Mez-All key. Every key on this pad should be something I use a lot. Slow All. It's fairly simply, it does the AE Tash and the AE Slow. So basically slows and tashes everyone. Pretty straightforward. Blur All. Blurs everybody. I don't have an X target one there because I'm generally targeting a specific mob because it might be somebody, say I mez the incoming, then they're off a little ways, I might target and blur them. I have my slow key. I use the AE slow. You want to slow most mobs because it also debuffs them in terms of weakness. So even if somebody else is slowing, you're still getting benefit from your slow. This is my back off key. It summons my companion, which generally should clear the pet's aggro. It also turns off my attack because unlike other classes, if I'm pulling my pet out, I generally want to be out too. So this next one is my pet rune. It kind of serves multiple purposes. The first thing it casts is Companions, Divine, Intervene. Basically the buff that puts Divine Invulnerability on your pet if it gets down to 20%. I don't tend to use that as a necromancer because I can feign my pet, and a lot of times the idea of my pet, and my pet is a lot more of the tank when I'm a necromancer, for it to suddenly become unexpectedly invulnerable so that aggro immediately flips to somebody else is a terrible thing. As an enchanter, I'm less concerned about that. I can control the battle in different ways. Next is Companions Aegeus, and then Xtar 13, which should normally be my pet. Speed bump. So Xtar 13 is always going to be my pet. And then it will cast 11, which right now is mana replication. But if I'm pet tanking, it's going to be a rune that puts a 92,000 point rune that anything over 20, it'll absorb 75% of income. This is my heal. I don't have a heal as a enchanter. This is my heal. And then after I do all of this, cast 11, because I've now memorized that, it's going to go back to X target 1, which is my group assist target, so that I'm not nuking the wrong, I'm not nuking my pet or something. You need that because the rune is not, obviously your pet only stuff you don't need that for, but if you're going to be trying to do a rune setup too, then you need that. And so basically it's the first time I hit it, cast Companions Intervening, there's lag right now, really bad lag. Second time, Aegeus, if I hit it a third time, so it's almost like a button that you can hit again and again, it'll put the rune on my pet. I hit Shift 4 to go to my spell bank. This is my bank of spells that that I can memorize. So, my group spells, a group rune, a spin stun, etc. I also have here the hotkey of attack key because I tend to forget sometimes to go back to my primary bank. And so for all of these, I have the attack key in the same spot. So, that's just who I am. I do forget things. So there it is. It's just what works for me. So we've got the back off key, pet rune. This is Beguiler's directed banishment. There's nothing fancy about this except I've made it a hotkey for some reason. My invises, hit 0 and I'm invis. This key is blur. It goes to X target 2. If there is no X target 2, it's going to go with whatever I've targeted. So it only changes to X target 2 if there is an X target 2. And it will use my Belt of Forgotten Memories. Let's see if I've got that in there somewhere. Right here. This is the unearthed belt you can get. It casts Memory Flux in a ½ second. So that's a very fast cast time. And then if that's not available, it will use my AA Fog of Memories. So the reason I do X target 2 is, say I'm pulling mobs back, I stop, hit the memory blur key, and that will blur the second mob, and then I continue to run and whatever. So even if there's like 4 or 5 mobs, I can be running along, get far enough ahead, stop, blur one, get rid of them. Or I can blur X target 2. I use X target 2, but again, if there is no X target 2, it will be whatever whatever you've already targeted. You can change that to whatever works. So you can see this lag. I keep flipping back. Okay, and then Mez. This is my Mez key. Again, I generally go to X target 2. I cast 9, which is Chaotic Deception, and then it goes back to X target 1. Now this is important because I really use this one if I've got a Mez, I won't call it that. If I've got a second mob that I can Mez, I'll use that to up my DPS. Mez him, back to target 1, nuke twice, Mez, nuke twice, Mez, nuke twice, because Chaotic Deception is giving you the twin cast effect. Again, if there is no X target 2, if you're just mezzing a mob that is not yet on the X target list, it'll do that. This X target 2 thing really works if everybody is assisting. Otherwise, it can get confusing. So this is my number 1 bank. And again, Shift 1, Shift 2 is like Unity and buffs. It casts my Charm, my back, and my Unity buff. I've got the standard block heals that I use. and unblock if I am having a cleric in the group who's actually using these spells as they're intended to use rather than through rote AI that can slow down the healing. Oh, and here we have somebody who wants to give me some problems. Okay, so back to our super lag. Okay, so that's shift 2, shift 3, ports, shift 4, spells, spell sets, shift 5, toys, shift 6, just so much stuff. And I'm doing this so that I'm not having all of these different hotbeat bars running up my, and shift 7, Rod of Insidious Glamour, which, you know, I have it, I'll never use it. So that was the bank 1, we go that to my next bank is set up so that I can use the number pad key to trigger these. Stasis, alt act, it self stasis me. You know, it's get out of combat. Get out of combat. The next one is my friendly stasis, which means I can save the life of anybody. I target myself and I turn it into a second get out of combat card for me. If this one is down, it'll default to friendly stasis. I have self stasis up there at the moment. Active, you're just changing the stance of your mercenary so that, you know, they can be casting and healing when you want them to cast and heal and not when you don't want them to cast and heal. Banish is my banishes 8, you know, root and boot 8 mobs. The problem with this one again is you should go into like the Tower of Rot, these low level dungeon zones, and experiment with using this so you'll have a full understanding of when it can be used and when it is going to aggro the entire dungeon onto your party. Phantasmal Opponent and Doppelganger, very useful for if you're getting attacked, you hit it and they will start taking aggro for yourself. Or if, you know, so I use these a lot. I find them helpful. They're not DPS per se, but they're great. Mind over Matter is what I call, you know, a get out of jail card. You hit that and suddenly you're going to be going OOM rather than out of health. Use it judiciously because it can drain you of mana. Beam of Slumber, Noctambulate is a single target mez, so even if you don't want to memorize a single target mez and you want to depend on AE mezes, you still have this available in your tool that you can use once every 5 minutes, and it gives a very long 3-minute mez, and it's going to debuff the mob too afterwards because they'll quite likely have Waking Nightmares, and their attack speed's down, their armor class is down. So it's a very nice single target mez to have available. Arcane Whisper, every now and then you're going to get aggro. You can use this to drop aggro. Dimensional Shield, even though it does supposedly move you around, I haven't found it to be a problem. It's a nice little additional save your ass. So this whole bank is generally dedicated to saving myself or the party. And it's all through number pad keys, except for Arcane Whisper and Dimensional Shield. I have not set those up for specific to be used for the keypad. That's because I use those keys for something else. My third bank is, I guess, what you would call is the burn bank. it's used to the control keys. Burn phase 1, it's going to cast combat reinforcement for me. This is a spell that you probably want to have on cooldown when you're in an active group where everybody is working. It gives you a little additional mana. It's going to add 7,000 or 8,000 DPS to everybody, so it's a good ADPS spell to have if you're in a group. If you're not in a group, it may not be worth it. It's fairly high in mana cost. The next one is Improved Twin Cast. So I hit this, I hit Improved Twin Cast, I hit my Illusions of Grandeur. These are up here so that I can see that they are actually triggered. I don't want them to not be triggered. Sometimes due to lag or something, they won't go down and I'll manually trigger them. And the other is my chess piece. And when you use your chess piece, you need to have a mob targeted and you will be attacking that mob at that point. They will react. So you hopefully, somebody else is grabbing aggro. So that's my burn key. Burn phase 2. I cast Mind Coil. I'm not going to recast that dot unless it fades, if it's a longer fight. And then I activate Chromatic Haze. It's important when you time the activation of Chromatic Haze that you do it when the rest of your group is in ready to be nuking. So it's kind of delayed. I do not cast Chromatic Haze in that burn phase first one, because what will happen is people will still be hitting their triggers, their various hotkeys, and they won't be nuking yet. And the Chromatic Haze only lasts for 12 seconds, and it's only good for 2 strikes. It's really, really good for 2 strikes. So you want everybody to take advantage of that. So this is sort of done in a way that hopefully by the time you cast Chromatic Haze, other people will be nuking. Then it will do Mind Drift and Mind Lash. Those are the 2 chosen nukes to take advantage of Chromatic Haze. And at that point, we go into our rotation. Pulmonary Grip, Mind Drift, Mind Lash, Pulmonary Grip, Mind Drift, Mind Lash. When ITC fades, if you've got the right aura memorized, you can switch from Fortifying Aura to Mana Replication. You don't have to do this. I don't know exactly how much additional damage or how much a benefit it'll be trying to perfect this. But if you have your Twin Cast aura up, of course, that does not help when you have improved Twin Cast going. So Pet Power activates various pet buffs, Fortifying Frenzy, etc. I have Silent Casting here, Spire of Enchantment, Mental Contortion, Calculated Insanity. This tends to be secondary burns. This puts me at 100% crit rate. Focus debuffs them. And then my runes, Eldritch Runes, Glyph Spray, Reactive Rune, Veil of Mind. Eldritch Runes will trump Polycascading Rune. So even if you hit that, it's fine. But if you hit Eldritch Rune, when that goes down, then you'll go with Polycascading Rune. Or you can Polycascading Rune up first, and when it goes down, you can do Eldritch Rune. These are your runes. So that's my burn bank. All of these are activated by control keys. And then these are kind of utility buttons. I have Divisor's Unity, Azure Crystal, Sanguine Crystal, Force Rejuvenation, Summon Companion, Suspend Companion. If I'm feeling bored, if I'm not feeling like hitting, I can just hit this one button and it'll go through my cycle of various what's up. It's not up to date because I actually don't use this key very much. If I use it, I'm going to have to adjust it. I'd probably go 3, 4, 5, 6. And I used to have a second cycle key. Again, not using this. Why? Okay, one reason I'm not using this is because these keys, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are key bound to the P key. And they will all cast in order. And it's kind of a nice little cycle. First, cast this. Then I cast this. Then I'll either cast Ideological Appropriation, which if I'm twin casting, and if I'm using a second mob that's mezzed, I will be getting back, the entire group will get back about 3,000 mana. So this is it's a low DPS option. It doesn't hurt your DPS that much, but it does lower your DPS. But it doesn't cost you anything because you're going to get back 1478 mana back to the group. And if you're using your twin cast mez, the group is going to get almost 3,000 mana back. It only casts every 15 seconds. So the cycle would go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, Pulmonary Grip. Pulmonary Grip is a pretty big, it's a nuke and a dot. It's a big nuke, 34,000, and then it dots. So you want to do that. It's a little mana intensive. So that is one reason I use the Tomb of Manipulation to lower my mana cost. Another thing I do, and I've got 19 minutes left, this makes a big difference, Crystal Mana Tonic. In fact, there's only 19 minutes left, so I can show you the difference. Let's go up with my biggest Pulmonary Grip right here. And we'll get Tribute is just a second. Deactivate Tribute. This is the lag. So it's deactivated. So come up here, let's click this off. Without Mana Tonic and without Tribute, this costs me 5496 to 8047. So let's go in here for a second. There's a crowd here. That's fine. Lag, lag, lag. Still not even in the building. Okay, in the building now. So we're safe here. We've got, this is what it costs without Mana Tonic. Mana Tonic, let's see, here's my mana. 1800 plat down the drawing, but there was only 19 minutes left, so it doesn't matter. So now it goes from 5,500 to 8,000 to 4,800 to 7,800. Technically, Tribute and Mana Tonic sort of stack, technically. When I activate Tribute, and this has the cast time reduction, and the two that I use, cast time reduction and mana preservation. So we come here and we open up Pulmonary Grip again, and we see that 4768 goes down to 4646. But the top 7804 to 7804 stays the same. So apparently Tribute and Crystal Mana Tonic stack a little bit. The Mana Tonic gives you a much more reduction in mana. I have so much Tribute that I just turn them on both and let it, who cares? You can see that it changes the cast rate. That's the big thing to why you use Tribute. You're doing Tribute to reduce the cast rate. There's that. My Staff of Viral Flux. So these are the 4 keys up here. Phantasmal Step, use that if I get rooted or something, or snared. Dire Charm, Rune of Banishment, 12-second rune, improved, and then these I don't actually cast too much, but this is so I can visually see that they're down. Group Perfect Invis versus Undead, Group Perfect Invisibility, Levitation, Mass Buff, Tranquility. You can see this is another utility hotbar. I keep my spells up here, and if they're not keybound, and the ones that I have keybound mainly are 3, 4, 5, and 6, I hit the P key and it automatically casts the next available one. Then I cast them through Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, you know, or if I do it like through, if I'm going to mez something X target 2. If I'm not going to be mezzing X target 2, then I'll probably manually cast mez, target and manually cast. So that's up here, of course, is the old standbys if you're going to add somebody to your X target list. Say you've got these mobs here and you want to make sure that the mob you're going to mez is X target 2. You can put them manually on them. You can remove them too. So that is my Enchanter setup. I will let you guys go and talk to you later.